Okay, guys, how we doing today? Sam here with you on Thursday the 9th. So you guys saw the polling here. So first up was a look at crude. So I'm trying to do 3 today since I had my dental issues yesterday. Now crude is so I've got a daily up here on crude. Now crude is a little tricky at the moment. I would tell you the crude is always difficult to trade. When you're right, oh God, it pays well, but you got to be really, really aware of the risk when you're trading in crude, particularly if you're trying to swing trade or take things overnight, because we just have so much geopolitical risk. So I'm not one to take positions overnight that are unhedged personally. So if I'm trading in crude, I'm trying to swing trade. I'm either going to use straight options or a combination of options and futures, and the option being the hedge. Just because of that overnight risk, right? And the shit happens kind of thinking, you got to be careful with crude. Now, that said, you can see here, if I'm out here on the daily, we've got very clear Elliott trading happening in here. Some mixed messages over here, and we'll get to that in a second. But just for some review here, some new members or people haven't been looking at this recently. So clear 5 down and then a very clear 3-wave correction, right? So this 5 corrected by this 3, and then we just get a free fall. Upon hitting this range here, also this beautiful set of median lines. Look how we held this all the way up. And interestingly, as we hit the last little pivot area up here, we don't quite make the median line. Boy, sets up I think, right, this was a corner pocket too, if I'm not mistaken. So we're front run on the 50. I wanted to say got second target easily right as we hit the median line. So crude is known to break. It's hard to trade crude. I'm going to tell you, it's one of the most challenging markets in my mind. So with that, just I wanted to show you that here. So always remember to put them on if you've not. So we seem to have a pretty clearly defined range here now with these white lines. So all I'm doing is I'm just grabbing a prior pivot down here. So this was support, became the resistance, and now we've just bumped into it again as some resistance. And then down below, same kind of thing. I'm just using a pivot here that was support. Looks like this was more support here. Didn't quite make it down to it. It was very close. Well, damn near close. 3 times that was tested, this what are we, 42.7, 42.80, and then we're in this range up here up to 66, well, I'll call it 66.70. So we've got just a gigantic range we're stuck in, and but we're moving so dramatically through it. I mean, there's zero retracement on the way down and very little retracement at this degree out here on a daily on the way up. So you're getting mixed messages. What's very clear, so let me open this up a little bit, is this 5 down being corrected by this 3, and it's technical. So I'm just using the last pivot before we come down here, so right to the golden zone, and then look at that reaction. So we don't have to wonder about what happened here. But that in itself is a bit of a mixed message, because this algorithm has a target down here at, what is it, $8? All right, so seems unlikely. But so even if you drew up a set of median lines, which of course we would want to do, so you'd have a potential corner pocket here. Swing down right to, well, we're right to the 50 relative to this swing, but we've already had, so we've already had a break here relative to this pivot. But it is interesting that we've come right back to this support level, right back to that prior 50. You can see how it was resistance here. Now resistance again. Now that doesn't mean we can't get through it and go back up here and test this golden zone, but that is kind of interesting. So if we think about where that would be projecting that we're going, well, we're not likely to get there that fast. Well, shit, I mean, anything's possible, but that seems less likely. So even pulling it back here and looking at the broader one, it's so big. I don't know that this is helping us here. So put us down here. November of this year, we're going to $8 in November, seems unlikely, right? So I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on that. So we've got to dig into what's happening on a smaller degree here, acknowledging that we have this range that's been fairly well carved out here. So from the daily here, what I think is more likely is that we're in a series of 3s now. Because if we're thinking 5 down corrected by 3 and expecting 5 down, I'd be putting crude down here below $10 seems less likely. I think we're more likely in a series of 3s. So my guess is this 3 will be followed by yet another 3. So we may end up with something like this. If followed by something like this. I've seen that just, you go in this sequence of threes. And that would be my guesstimate. So one possibility, of course, if we think from an Elliott context, is that we could have a W, an X, maybe Y going in, right? That would imply higher prices here because, well, let's just put it up there. So it's a tough call in here, but right now it's more characteristic of an impulse here. So that would imply that we've got an ABC going in. So potentially now the A going in, followed by a B, followed by a C, which would suggest we might go up and at the very least challenge those prior pivots up here, which were at that golden zone. Now technically, it's not from the dominant high. The dominant high is way back here. This is the last pivot before we go down in that sequence. But if we go from the absolute high and then pull down here, well, we're going to break it, right? So something like that wouldn't be, you do have the all the way, except you got to be careful about, are they related, right? So is an algorithm going to care? Well, not likely, right? So this potentially, could we go that high? Yeah, yeah. Right, so now we're talking about going out past 2020, so you go, fuck, why do we even care about that? Well, yeah, I hear you there, but you want to have at least some sort of sense of where you are on a daily, whether or not that you're going to make a trading decision on that. It's probably likely going to vary from trader to trader, but I think you want to at least have some sense of what's most probable, right? So is it probable to think we're in 1, 2 and we're heading down into a 3, going below $10 seems less likely. So a sequence of threes seems like a reasonable map to have out here, and I think we're going to get a fairly good tell based on what happens here. So let me pull some of this off here, and we'll dig into the chart as it would relate to any trading decisions you'd make in the very near term. So let's go down to a 3 hour. I think we had some decent separation there. So now here's hitting the golden zone and then the reaction coming down. And there's just, here we can see the evidence of what would look, god damn it, trading view, would look like this. So the 3, 4 and the 5 looks pretty solid. Good luck with the 1, 2. Right? It's anyone's guess. I mean, it looks like you could go 1, 2, no matter what, right? The 2 is going to be very shallow. So 3, 4, 5 finishes down here. I don't think you'd want to try and interpret this as anything other than impulsive coming off of this big C wave here. So straight rip down, got to call it an impulse. Certainly doesn't look like we're correcting anything. Now here, to some degree, similar problem in that we're having very shallow retracements. So I can get all the subdivision into a 1 here. So I've got a clear impulse taking me up, but then a very shallow 2. So looking there, you only have so many things to choose from. So a 2 not even making it to the 38, it's not like it doesn't happen. It's just not the norm. So you can, kind of make sense of it and go, okay, well, there's a lot of congestion here. So it could have been we're just coming back here to test that support. You can see it reflected in the volume profile as well. It's tested. So any bulls looking to bury size, that's a place where they can do it. So that seems to be where we are here. I think because the subdivision is so clear here, because I can get, well, shit, let me show you. So if we get down into that, the 1, 2, then it's all quite technical as well. So the 1, 2, let me pull some of this off here. Just this is the same process that I would encourage you to do, is just kind of work through it. Say, let's use the fib relationships to help guide us. So just get a ballpark. Okay, if that's my 1, that's my 2. Well, relative to this degree, well, here's your high probability zone, but it doesn't look like we're done yet, right? We have all the benefit. Now, of course, if you're over here, you don't know that at that time. Right, you might be thinking, oh, there's my 3, 4, and we're going into the 5. Well, of course, now we have all of this additional data. But in terms of working backwards from where we are, it's really a process of elimination. So we're working from some top here, going, well, okay, I can see a clear impulse from this pivot. It's hard to miss that. Right, clearly an impulse. So something completes here. So if I work backwards and go, well, I got 5 there, it looks like I've got a good 3 there. Well, it looks, I got a double top here, but I can probably squeeze out the little retrace here, gives me a 2, so I can probably get a 1, 2, 3, 4, not the best looking 5 I've ever seen, and we run into a double top. But note, it's interesting, right? So it always tells over here, you can always spot it, right? Pull that across, right? Market doesn't like this price. So this becomes the resistance here, rejected. We get through it, now it becomes the support, right? Right to the Vegas wave, literally in the split, splits the lips, up it goes. This also technical. So if this is my 1, 2, same idea here. You're kind of working backwards, going, if that's the 1, that's the 2. Where am I looking for the 3? Well, high probability zone. I've told you guys, virtually every video. There's your high probability. Yeah, we got through it by a few ticks. But if I had to guesstimate as to where my 3 was, given that clear impulse I can get in that subdivision, I'm planting the 3 right there until proven otherwise. Well, where are we now? Well, note here. Look, right. So right into a little low volume node. Right. Come down here. Here's the support. Taps it. Reaction. All right, so let's think about where we might be. What else can we lean into here? Well, I've completed this. So if this is correctly identified as a 1, 2, well, of course, first thing we're going to check is that relationship between the length of the 3. So here we are at the 50 and running into some structure. So pull that across, right? Prior resistance, now the support. Yeah, we get a little couple of wicks through it. So there's a what can you see it? Let's see here. I'll break it so you can see it. So I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can get 5 here. So I've got all of the ingredient. Let me mark it here for you. So you see how it looks like I can go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So actually, I think I want to do it this way: 3, 4, 5. Let's get you moved. So I'm gonna. Yeah, looks like I would have to do it this way. So it looks like a diagonal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to give me the 1. Right? I know that's a little tricky to see here, but 1, 2 is there. 3 is here. 4, when you bring it up on your chart, you can see it. So we don't overlap the 2. So it looks like a leading diagonal into the 1. There's the deep 2 down for the 3, A, B, C, and the 4 down for the 5. So we've got all of the ingredients. So there's my C wave. So I can go A, B, and I can get my C down here. So I can get this right there. Let's get that. Oh, come here. Let's put this. All right, I'll typically put my corrections in yellow just to make them stand out. All right, so we'll bring up the 4 here. Now, what have I got here? Well, just a bunch of chop. So is it 1? Well, we can't have a triangle in the second. So A, B, looks like we're trying to put in the C. So until proven otherwise, I'll just start with a 1 there. Looks like A, B. I'm trying to get a C, but there's just a limit. Well, obviously, there's a limit to how far that can go. Can I get a 3, 4, and 5 here? Let's get that degree up. Go micro, and let's go to green. Okay, so we've got this identified. So this chop here. Now, so we've got, you got geopolitical issues. You've got our government now putting tariffs on Iran, and right now they're fucking around with the metals prices here, but there's going to be ongoing tension there, and those tensions are often reflected in crude. So, how do you deal with that? Well, one thought is you go, well, fuck it, I'm not trading this until that tension is resolved. It's kind of like the volatility, the tension can lead to volatility, which can lead to profitability, but it's a double-edged sword, right? So that's why I wouldn't be in here naked with just a stop on it, right? So that's always the issue, right? You take it overnight, shit happens, and you can find yourself in trouble. So I would be sure to, personally, it's just me. I think I've told you guys before, biggest loser of my entire trading career was in crude, right? By a surprise event that happened overnight, right? So I would never do it again. It was a very substantial loss. So I learned my lesson there, and I of course had to stop on it. But this here, right? So right now we're kind of sideways. So do I have enough here to make this trade? Well, I've hit the 786 to the tick, which is very common in Crude, right? It's very common to go 786, 1272. You see it break all the time. So I've got a contender here for a 2, but it doesn't look like I'm done. So I think coming back down here to test this support, you can see the wicks through the golden zone, which is, again, not uncommon in Crude. So it doesn't look like there's enough there to take the trade just yet, right? So how would you, what are you going to do with that? All right, so you can get an A, B, but so I can get, if this is 1, I can get an A, B, C into a B, A, B, C. Doesn't look like I'm done. So what you'd be hoping for here is a diagonal to finish this. If so, it's already the symmetry doesn't look great, right? Can we get that to play? You know, I mean, I don't love that. So it's not enough for a new trade for me. So if that's A, B, I'm looking for a C down here, but I don't want this going. Well, here's our limit, right? So the whole count gets invalidated. Let's get this down here. A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 3 already a little problematic. So let's check where are we with the 4. All right, surprised? Anybody surprised there? So we've gone right to the gold, to the 618 to the tick, right to the golden zone. So we've got that. So let me pull this one off. So a contender for the 4 because it's technical. So 1, 2, is it enough? Well, we got to be conscious. Well, let's just check it. You got to be careful about the 3rd relative to the 5th. So we're long enough here. So remember, I just told you 786 and the 1272, very common in Crude. I can't tell you why. It's just you see it all the time. So there's the 1272. This was we had the 78. Well, pardon me. It was the 786 here. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Symmetry's a little iffy, but we're hitting the gold. We hit the golden zone to the tick. So that has a target right. Oh, you can't even see it. So let me pull this off. So look where the target is, right here at that 50. So if this is going to play this way, so this has got to go, hang on a second. Let's go up a degree and let's get this in. We'll go back to white here. So we're looking for a 2 down here to finish this ABC. So all right, let me try and put the whole thing together. Okay, so we'd be looking for this to finish A, B, C, boom. All right, so a lot of times you'll hear people talk about W's and M's in terms of trade setups. Well, there's your classic W right there. All right, so you're anticipating that this 5 is going to hit its target down here. We're going to run into this prior support level that's pretty well established here, and we've got an algo target sitting right on top of this 50. Right, so here's the golden zone. Here's our 50 in red here. So same kind of thing. Now, so we look and go, okay, could I get some median lines on that? Well, of course, right? I got 3 pivots. Right? So would that make any sense? Well, that wouldn't make sense there, so we'd have to go to a modifier. So I always start with a shift just to see how that looks, knowing that a modified shift is just a channel. So that looks a little bit better to me. So we're going to come down here and get this at the median line. That would be reasonable. Okay, so let's put this line it up. Right there, right there. There's the 5, right there. So that would put us putting in that 5 May 12th. What are we? That's 3 days away. So right now, the last technical pivot I've got is right here at this proposed 4, setting up the possible move down here. Now, if this breaks out here, right, this count gets invalidated, or we've got to kind of refigure it and say, how are we going to finish that there? So, I don't like to go below the 60 on a swing trade, so I'm reluctant to do it. I don't think you have it. So it would kind of blow up this count. So right now, you've got a count that makes sense because this ABC, and again, if I recall, this was technical. Right, so, well, here's our 50. Here's the first algo target. Didn't quite get second, but this algo got paid. All right, so here to here, they get that reaction. Now we're looking for that sequence to continue. But I'm going to wait if this, so for, as I was just saying, if this blows up this count by doing that, and I can't reconcile how I'm going to count that correction, I'm going to wait and see where that's going to tell me what I've got here. What is this? Because right now, if I can't count it, I can't trade it. Well, let's rephrase that. There are times when the Elliott count is such a cluster F that it's not helping you, but that's not where we are here. We're seeing very clear counts. And this right now, I don't see any other way, because the ABC is so good, I don't see another way to count this other than a 1-2, because there's not enough there to think, oh, maybe a WXY. It's not enough. No, it's just not. So the ABC is solid. So, and I've got a clear, look here, I even got an impulse to finish the C wave of this as the proposed 4 of this degree. So unless this is going to blow up and we're going to get more complexity to this correction and we're going to go down further, well then it blows up this. So you got to rethink the whole thing. Maybe we're going back down here to this golden zone to give that a visit. Then I don't know where I am. So if I don't know where I am, then I'm much less, particularly in crude, I'm much less likely to just take something off of a straight algo pull. I want to get a sense of where this count is. And if I can't figure it out, I'll wait and say, all right, okay, I need more data from the market. I need more reveal. The market always reveals itself. Right now, that looks like the trade. So I'd be looking to be a buyer down here at, call it 60, 68. In that range. I've got just the right kind of confluence to set up there, plus a median line, plus an algo target, plus that would make sense with the Elliott count. Sure, it's an ugly 2, but I can get it to work. Right? I'm not, the 3 is not great, but it is 1272, but the structure is a little iffy. So, shit, I know that's really hard to see. I should forget that. So let me take this off here so you can see this a little better. This, right, that's the last technical pivot. What's another way to count this? This, I just don't see it. So already I've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 1 is okay. I got an A, B, C. I'm still on the 60. Looks like I can get an A. I'm good on the B, but this does not look like it's done. So as I said, if it blasts up here for whatever reason, right? Just because I have a count doesn't mean it must follow it. If it blasts up here, I got to rethink the whole thing. If I can come down here, then I get an entry that's technical. I know where I am. It fits with the count as I'm reading it. I'm right at a prior support level. I've got a median line. I got an algo target. I'm comfortable there. I'm still going to hedge it with an option. So if I'm long the futures, at the very, well, often what I'll do, you could do one of two things here. You could sell an out of the money put spread underneath this 65 and use that premium to pay for something at the money or very near the money because you're anticipating a fairly good sized move here. So even just back here from, we'll call it 60 to 64, that's a solid base hit, if not more. So if you can catch that, now right, you're not going to get dollar for dollar with an option, but if this thing gets in the money and maybe you're buying a 60 call, you're already a little in the money, there's going to be juicy premium there. If you're selling out of the money calls, well, you need the volatility high, which we have, right? We've got tension, we've got fucking warships heading towards Iran if they're not already there. So the premium is high here. So the sellers of out of the money premium, you got to be hedged. So the tighter the spread between the options, the less money you have to work with. So you may not get enough in the sale of the premium down here to pay for the call. So there's some exposure there. You'd have some, you're hedged from unlimited losses, but you'd have the potential for the loss between what you gain on the premium here and the difference between the two if it just craters. Right, you'd lose money on the call, but you'd have time to get out and reduce the impact of the loss. Right, it would be a loss for sure, but you have time. You don't have to take everything to zero. But that said, the biggest problem with option trading like that, so maybe you're selling options with 3 months to go or 2 months to go, and buying options with you could even do a calendar spread. So I mean, there's a number of different ways you could trade this with options. But the temptation always with options is that time is a double-edged sword. It can work for you, but it creates the potential for you to break your trading plan. So there has to be a point where you say, okay, if it breaks the 65, for example, right? And that may not be your trading plan, but if it's me, if it breaks the 65, I close all sides. Because the rational, well, you could even use this pivot. If we're going to break here, then this count is wrong. So there has to be a point where you go, okay, I close everything, rather than go, here's the temptation, I've done it. Well, right, I got 60 days left in these options. Yeah, let's give it a little more time, see how it responds, right? I got 45 days more with these options here. I can give it a little more time. It could come back. Well, I got another 30 days with this option, right? It could easily bounce back. Right? I've been that guy, right? So it's easy to do, right? So there has to be a point where you are committed to exiting, right? And you don't have a lot here, because if we take that out, then that can't be the 4. This can't be the 2. The whole thing has to be recounted. So there's a well, you know, not to get too buried into all the option stuff, because I know many of you have not traded options before. So I just don't want you in here unhedged, right? There's just too much going on in the background to not have some degree of hedge. So if you don't know how to do it, fuck it. Don't trade crude. That would be my advice. If you do know how to do it, right? I know many of you guys have traded options before. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as buying the futures here and buying a slightly out of the money put, right? If we get the turn, and we get a move like this, well, then you got to rethink, right? Do you want to maintain that insurance policy just in case? Or do you move far enough away from your entry to where you can lose the put hedge? Now you're far enough ahead to where a trailing stop would keep you, even with an abrupt move, the impact of a loss is lower, and while you might give back some profit, you're not vulnerable to just a complete free fall. Right, so I don't know if I confused you more with the option talk there. I just don't like to give people advice in crude when they're not hedged for the shit happens thinking. All right, so I draw this up here, and if you're, we're not looking for a triangle, even though it's kind of taking that shape. Right, so we look here, and it kind of looks like we might be going. This is triangular, which would not fit with a 2. So approach with caution here. I know this was 8 of you. Well. 8, 9, 10 of you guys looking for a trade here. Just be careful with crude. It's just, as I said, I have been burned badly in here. So I'm always very, very, very conscious of that. I never forget it. And I'm always cautious and careful in here. So my suggestion, if you're going to trade here, have a hedge on it. All right, guys, I rambled on enough there. Okay, back.